one another week. And something unbelievable just happened on camera. I know you guys can't see it, but we
might have to pull the footage from this because we just had two pets jump up on both of our laps at the same time. That was adorable.
Unbelievable! Touchdown! Oh my, that may be one of the great throws ever made.
Daddy, chill.
Daddies, I am here right now we got a full house again, and I'm just calling out real fast that I think that, and you two would probably agree, it's a good thing that I'm married to a doctor. I think that she just received a call from the NFL, not to go in as a player, but to go in for emergency medical backup support because there are so many injuries here in week 2. And that is the note that I want to start this on because I'm feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. And what I want to know is, do you guys have any injuries? I've got a little blister pop right here on the palm of my hand. Aaron, Kamish, anything that we need to be worried about?
I've got this little blister on my shaft. I don't know if anyone wants to take a look at this and tell me if it's something I should get checked out.
It's so two blisters. Seb, do you have any blisters?
I do, a little blood blister on my hand right here. So, I guess that kind of works the same.
Well, at this rate, I think that Bree may end up in Peyton's starting lineup if we were to give it another week.
You guys having any dreams if you're off in dreamland? What are your dreams this week?
Dreams. A quick one, I guess. I enjoy every week seeing Jim Harbaugh just say the most wild things. And now that the NFL audience is getting to see Jim Harbaugh say those things, especially in the locker room, I saw a tweet this week that said the only person more autistic than Herbert is Jim Harbaugh. And so sorry if that offends anyone, but I thought it was really funny just because he just says the most outlandish things. And I think the team loves him. Even for J.K. Dobbins, a former Ohio State guy, to love on Jim Harbaugh and say he's glad he's his coach, I think that's exciting. And so just to see whatever Jim Harbaugh is going to say this week is, a fun dream.
I don't know who the fuck that's going to offend in this league. And if it offends you, we don't want you here. So I don't care who it is.
Do we remember when Aaron forgot that we had Vic in the league, a black man in the league? Jeez.
All time clip. We're just 14 white guys.
Yeah, we're just 14 white guys. Speaking of white guys, and also my wife, who is a redhead, my dream is right down the road. He's going to be playing down the road. Shoot, might even get a ticket and go see him play. The Red Rocket is back in a starting spot, ladies and gentlemen. The Red Rocket is back. When he finds a starting position, a one way or another, and he seems to keep doing it.
I will say it's a great dream, and I think that it brings a lot more value to any of the weapons on Carolina's offense. So I'm sleeping and I'm dreaming. So speaking of current news, we just had a daddy make our second Draft Daddy Classic winner take their pick, and Carson Steele is off the board. And so Jack took Carson Steele this week, who I'm sure among many was my top waiver target this week, former Ball State Cardinal. I'm dreaming about the Kansas City Chiefs running back room, and I'm really excited to see what that looks like this week. And Ask brought it up. Is it Carson Steele? Is it Samaje Perine, kind of a long-time pass catcher? Are they bringing in someone from the outside? I've heard whispers. I've heard whispers of, they lost Isaiah Pacheco, who stomps the ground, and they're bringing in Kareem Hunt, who stomps his wife. It kind of fits the system. So, I want to see what happens in the Kansas City Chiefs running back room. And so transitioning into the president, Alvin Kamara, and our first matchup here in week 3 is your boy, President Alvin Kamara Harris, 2-0, versus Team Keegs, 2-0. And this is our actually only 2-0 matchup of the week that we have. And I will say it was up there for matchup of the week, although there's some things that are maybe a little more exciting and have a little bit more pressure than 2-0 teams in week 3. Keegs and myself have had kind of a little bit of a different ride to 2-0, and this week I'm excited to see what Keegs brings to the table. But Commish and I just made a blockbuster trade, and I have a significant upgrade in my wide receiver room now, adding CeeDee Lamb. So I'm interested to see how CeeDee Lamb plays the Baltimore defense. I think that they've been a little bit weak this year. And can we see Kamara keep up with the Philly defense as he did last week? I think the New Orleans offense has been electric thus far, and I look forward to seeing if it remains just as high. I am a longtime known Kyle Pitts hater, but you know what? I might have to flip sides of the fence here. And then I streamed the defense that's playing against Carolina. That was intentional. So we'll see what my team looks like this upcoming week. For Team Keegs, I think he's got a couple bright spots, those being Josh Allen, Breece Hall. I think Ramondre has had a year that I didn't expect. Devontae Smith has also taken a bit of a front runner role in the Eagles offense without having AJ Brown. Otherwise, I unfortunately don't think Lad McConkey, Chige Nkonkwo, and Christian Watson will quite keep up with the rest of the pieces in the president's cabinet. So unfortunately for Keegs, I know that he has a run of success in this league every year, but I think that this is his first loss of 2024, and I'm taking the Prez. Boys, what are you taking?
Yeah, I do have a quick question. Prez, have you had any assassination attempts on you?
Yeah, my wife got really pissed last night, and my cereal tasted a little funny, so I think that she put some in it, but I don't know.
Well, you might have assassination attempts on you at home, but I think right now it kind of feels like you're putting out assassination attempts in the league. And we talked last week. I think with this trade, it was a great trade. I commend both of you. And but I'm really excited to see where Kyron Williams, you could have another 4. You could have 10 touchdowns in your running back. Yeah, within your 3 running backs. I'll give it to you. Number 1 best running back core in the league right here. But selfishly kind of hoping he gets a little injured. I don't want that for anybody directly. But if we're going to hand out injuries, we might as well give one to Kyron Williams so that way Blake Corum can get a shot. But yeah, I'm with you on this. Everything you said, spot on. Going with the president. He's got my vote.
And as some people in the league might appreciate, protect the president. Blake, did you spring into action there?
Mentally.
Yeah, it's funny because the president here has no idea what that reference is actually to.
I do know the reference.
Now watch this drive.
Ooh, okay. But in this case, I don't think you need any protection. I do want to make a note, though. They asked, as you talked to Aaron about any assassination attempts, I did want to make a note that, Aaron, the assassination attempts do not count as any stray bullets. They may have flown your way from your street. Those are out there. Yeah, that's just murder. Anyways, with your team, not to get into too much detail, we're trying to cut some of these down a little bit. Yeah, I think you walk away with it. I like Keegs' Josh Allen, as he texted me this week, ride or die with Josh Allen. I think you're going to die with Josh Allen this week, Keegs. I'm sorry the president's taking this one.
Mr. Commish, president, and I'm fucking the ass. God damn it. All right. Commish, how are you feeling about your matchup this week? You've got the newbie Thomas McComb, who has proven that he has his place in this league just as well as anybody else. How are you feeling going into this matchup?
Yeah, I just want to make it known that he does not have a place in this league at this point. 2 games in, even if they're wins, I really don't care. He doesn't have a place. He does not earn it yet. I think you need to finish the full season at least to earn that spot. So anything could happen at this point, But anyways, yeah, going into this week, first off, do I need a name change? I think I do, especially after, again, Aaron mentioned it, just a big trade, which I think was really, really important for my team. I did trade away Kyle Pitts in that tight end position. I was just kind of tired of dealing with him. And as I've kind of noted, my running back room needed some help. And I think Gibbs is going to provide that. I know he's in a timeshare, but as it is every other one of my running backs. So I think it was only fit. But I do think he can provide some consistency just because the Lions offense is pretty solid. Jaden Daniels, the Commanders offense was in the red zone 5 times last week, and they didn't come up with any touchdowns. I think that changes this week. It's like looking at efficiency, that Commanders offense has been pretty solid. Jaden Daniels has been a big reason because of that. I think that continues. Keenan Allen, if he's healthy, if you saw the interaction with him and DJ Moore, Williams, and Keenan Allen on the sideline, you could see that DJ Moore was not happy, and Keenan Allen was trying to be helpful. And I think that's going to make a ton of difference as far as the targets that Caleb Williams sends Keenan Allen's way. So I think he could have a big week. Ayuk is now the wide receiver 1. Hopefully he's conditioned for it. So I think my team is in position for a lot of success this week. Looking at the other side, though, Jordan Mason has been really like the heartbeat of this team. Yeah, we'll see if A.J. Brown's back this week, but can the Rams slow down Jordan Mason is the question. Probably not, but will he continue to, be RB1, RB2, RB3 numbers? I don't know. ETN in Buffalo. Buffalo's defense has been solid this year. Tank Dell really hasn't done a whole lot. Minnesota's defense has been much better than expected as well. So just looking at these types of things, looking at both of these teams, I don't think it really matters what tight end I pick up. I think I'm going to have a good week, a good bounce back week, and the comeback story is going to need a comeback story because they're going down this week.
I don't feel like it's quite as straightforward, but I wouldn't expect anything but that level of confidence from you in this. But I do think you called out a good one, Jordan Mason. You've got Mason and Ayuk going against each other here. Those are their only two real targets now, with Debo also being down. Sounds very unlikely that A.J. Brown is going to be in this week. I think that where it's going to come down to for you now that you have regained Jahmyr Gibbs, can he squeeze out a touchdown or two, take one away from Diamont? Selfishly, I hope no. If he does, I think it goes to you.
I think there's potential for the upset alert, but I'm looking at a second 3-0 team. I think that he's going to ride the Jordan Mason high while he can, and we'll see a comeback story pull this one out. Maybe only by 5 or so points, but I think this is a really close matchup. I hate to root against my trade partner here, but I got to give it to comeback story for the sake of predictions being slightly different amongst all of us too. So this one's going to come back.
All right.
And speaking of come on your back, we've got Blake and Glenn in the next matchup. Blake, how you feeling?
Okay, maybe you remember who I am, and no, this is always a fun matchup. I look forward to any moment that I get to face off with the G Train Rats, and we're coming into this one in a very similar. I think it was early in the season last year that we were facing off, both desperate for a win. I'm more desperate in this case. I'm part of that 0-2 crew, which is not a fun crew to be a part of 2 years in a row. But I will be honest, I don't feel great where I'm at right now. So here's what I'll say. If I leave my roster as is today without Joe Mixon, I think that this one goes to Glenn. I'll say it straightforward. We got Baker Mayfield going up against Denver and Bijan going up against Kansas City. I see this could be another breakout game for Bijan. And, we're seeing that. I think that they're going to write off what just happened last night for us on their Monday night game with that last incredible, wild turnaround of events. I think that they're going to ride that high, and they're clearly showing that they're going to rely on Bijan this year. And hopefully on my end, we see Drake London, if I don't get any kind of trade in, Drake London ride that high as well. But yeah, we have Baker against Denver. It's like, okay, so he's due for another big week, and he's got that stack with him and Mike Evans, which I do love. So like I will say this, and I will caveat myself. I'm choosing myself pending a trade. If I get a trade off before Thursday, I'll give it to myself. If I can't get a trade, if my roster stays essentially the same, regardless of waivers. I'm going to go with the G Train Rats.
We're gonna hold you to that. We will make your prediction if there's no trade by Thursday Night Football.
It's a conditional pick. It's a conditional pick.
Rats is your pick if no trade. Ass if any trade. We've got
Might be one of the only
in
times. Might be one of the only times that I've openly not chosen myself.
The pride amongst this group is usually way too high to do that. So
yeah, but
yeah, I'm with you, man. I love Glenn's team. I love Glenn's attitude this year. Glenn, I hope you're listening. Bijan is a baller. Baker's a baller. Mike Evans. Nico is wide receiver 2. I think that Glenn's team is has it here. I'm going with the Rats for a 2-1, which I would love to check the history on this and see. Mute yourself, Kamish. I'd love to check the history and see if Glenn has ever had a winning record in this league. And we'll see if that's the case. But this may be the first opportunity for that, and I think I'm taking the Rats.
Yeah, I think a lot of great things there as well. Blake, for you, kind of the same thing. I'm hoping David Montgomery doesn't get as much play as he did last week. The Arizona defense hasn't looked incredible, but I think there's opportunity for Jared Goff and David Montgomery to play well. Drake London, I'm probably a little bit higher on. I think he'll play well. On the Rats side, yeah, it is kind of surprising to see Glenn continue to put up great numbers. I think, who would have expected Baker Mayfield to be quarterback 1 right now? The Denver defense, all of Denver looks bad, but I still think there's enough on the Rats side. I think they take this home.
All right. And then next up on our matchups is going to be the Bald Bison and the Jacksonville Jacks. I apologize. Bald Bison versus Jacksonville Jacks.
Exactly. No,
I cannot add the. I cannot.
But
add
you just added the to Jacksonville Jacks, didn't you?
Bald
See,
Bison
it's natural. It's natural to say to just put the in front of there because I'm the actual
with the Jacks. It's a lowercase the. Like it's not that important.
Sure.
Lowercase
All right,
the.
Mr. Zitch.
Okay. We got Bald Bison and the Jacks. I think this is a interesting matchup that has a lot of implications on the future of this either team's season. The Bald Bison are 0-2 with some struggles in the injury department. And then Jacksonville Jacks are 1-1, kind of expected to be a top dog, but dropped one last week and seemingly needing to have a little bit of a comeback. So I'm really interested to see what both these lineups look like this week. I'm going to talk about Bald Bison first. We've got Tua in the starting lineup right now. And obviously Tua, if anyone hasn't paid attention to their phone, just got placed on IR. So Tua is not coming back. So we've got Aaron Rodgers rostered, or are we going to pick up perhaps Andy Dalton? Maybe I would recommend Andy Dalton or another quarterback off of waivers. I think, again, we've mentioned it before, quarterback is the easiest position to fill in this league. So there are some viable starting options of quarterbacks that are out there. I think even Derek Carr is an option right now, and he's a top 5 quarterback. So I'd like to see Tua come out of that lineup. We did see DeAndre Swift score the only Chicago touchdown offensively in this last year. And in my opinion, I don't think that that's going to be a consistent touchdown maker in his lineup. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is questionable right now. If Amon-Ra is going to be going, and it sounds like Dan Campbell is saying he is going to be going, I think that Amon-Ra really has to carry this team. And then in the flex position, Charbonnet, if we aren't seeing a Kenneth Walker play, Bald Bison maybe looks a little bit better, but I think he's going to be really riding the coattails of Amon-Ra. And then the Jacks, I love the Jacks team. The wide receivers are great, and we saw Malik Neighbors ride the bench and go to a 20-plus point effort. He's really the go-to guy for the Giants. So he's made it into the starting lineup now that Debo is out. Jacks had a really great replacement for Debo with Neighbors there, and Devontae Adams kind of had a breakout game last week as well. So I'm excited to see the Jacks team. James Conner is a workhorse. He proved that this past week, while Jerome Ford is not a workhorse, and it is essentially a 50-50 split with Dante Foreman there in Cleveland. So the running back room needs to work, but I really think that despite that, Tyreek is going to bounce back. He only had about 5 points this past week. Despite that, the Jacks are still going to take a win this week over the Bison, albeit I think it is close, and that's going to drop our Bison to 1-2 and Jacks to 2-1.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Jacks pick up the win here. Last week, I think they had the pieces to get the win. They just didn't put it all together. But you add Neighbors back into that lineup. I think Connors has looked good as the workhorse for Arizona. Stafford may not even need to play incredibly well. You're not going to have Tyreek having down weeks like he did. Even, you put anyone in that offense as quarterback, I think he's going to continue to man targets, and they're going to get creative with how they give him the ball. So, yeah, I think Jacksonville and Jake Money Moody are going to get the win.
Yeah, I hate to go 3 for 3, but I'm also going to go with the Jacks, primarily not even necessarily because of the strength of the Jacks, but because of the weakness that I see on the Bison. Like, especially in looking in the wide receiver room, like Pittman, I hate to say this, and being a Bears fan playing you guys this week, but like Pittman maybe useless, may become a non-factor, or at least not a fantasy starter, not a for sure thing, a flex consideration maybe. I also think that there's something I'd be curious to see if he plays around with. Maybe is Darnell Mooney worth a start over him? Be curious about that, especially after what it looked like last week. Maybe Kirk Cousins has found a new buddy in the former Chicago Bear. So I'm going Jacksonville Jacks. One of the hairiest, or has the highest potential for hair in the league. Unfortunately, he's 0-2 along with me, the Tarkington Crawdaddies, taking on 69 of the Chicago Dogs. And I don't mean by the end of the year, because he's going to finish last place, because he's determined not to, but he is taking on the Chicago Dogs. Mr. Commish, what do you see in this matchup?
Yeah, I just looking, not even looking at their teams to start, but just looking at their logos, looking at the Crawdaddies carrying that screw out there. I wish that I could look at this and say, an awesome mix-up this week would be that if the Crawdaddies were to come away with the victory, they could edit their logo and have a hot dog on top of it. And maybe we'll see that at the end of the season if things play out how they have been. Again, not destined to be that way. But I think it would be a cool mix. But I don't think that's quite going to happen this week. Just to kind of break things down a little bit, if the Crawdaddies keep their team the way that it is right now, I know they've been in the trade area a little bit here and there. Rashid Shaheed has been the bright spot for the Crawdaddies. He's looked awesome catching long balls from Derek Carr, who's looked incredible with the Saints. They do play Philadelphia this week, so there's an increase in just opponent level, both on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. So we could see a little bit of change there. Mark Andrews saw more targets last week. Didn't amount to a whole lot, but better than the first week. The Dallas defense has been in shreds lately, so maybe he can take advantage there. He picked up Josh Palmer after the ass dropped him. He plays Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense has been actually pretty decent as well. And Josh Palmer does not look like the wide receiver one there. Quentin Johnson has looked really, really good last week. It looked like they were trying to get him the ball, trying to prioritize that. What the Crawdaddies do have going for them is if Kenneth Walker does get healthy, I think he can take advantage of that Miami defense. He's kind of that focal point, him and DK Metcalf there in Seattle. But I think Kenneth Walker, if he plays, could be a difference maker if the Dogs have a down week. And I think that has to be the thing that has to happen for the Crawdaddies to be able to pick up a win here. Dogs need to play poorly. We saw Richardson play poorly last week. I know he's playing against Chicago this week, who has a pretty solid defense, but I think they scheme him up a little bit differently this week. Maybe a little bit more running, a little bit more short yardage completion, things that you kind of saw from Jaden Daniels this last week, just to get that offense in sync a little bit more before he takes some of those long shots. James Cook is going to continue to cook. And same with A-Chain. He's going to continue to eat. Chase had a bad week last week, but the Commanders' defense is the worst in the league right now. The worst defense in the league. I know it's the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase connection, but if it's all going to Chase, I like Chase to pick up some things here. Rice has looked good. Brock Bowers is, tight end 2, but arguably tight end 1 if you take out Likely's big week in week 1. He's been the most consistent tight end as a rookie, so big pickup from the Dogs to be able to draft that rookie there. DJ Moore, I don't know what to expect, but I really don't think he needs to have a good week to win. So, yeah, I'm taking the Dogs here. Closer than expected, I think, when you look at these two teams, but I still think the Dogs win.
Yeah, I really feel like I'm just echoing both of you in this week's podcast, but it is what it is. I've got the 0-2. I think that I don't even know if this would be conditional. If Peyton can get a trade in, because there's a lot of bare bones showing, a lot of fear for him to have to eat those dogs. The only thing that I would say is, or even to your Joshua Palmer point, is because is Herbert playing? Or is Herbert out? He's negative on the leg, but is
I
Herbert
think
gonna?
they said he's going to be back this week. I'm pretty sure.
Well, either way, Herbert or Herbertless, I think that Joshua Palmer is a non-factor, and this one's going to the Dogs, and I think that it will be. I don't think it's going to be as close as you're even giving him credit for. I think that the spread right now it's at 96 and 112. I think that that's going to be pretty close to the spread itself, maybe not the exact points.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Crawdaddies make some moves on this roster before we go into Thursday night football, and I expect that he will. I know he's been trying to make moves. So, yeah, I think he needs to get a little bit more depth. If you look at his roster, he's got a lot of guys who have injury designations. So I'm really hoping for the Crawdaddies to make some moves this season and not be at the bottom of the barrel. But right now, the Chicago Dogs are coming for you, and that's not just this week. That's the end of the season. So it's the Chicago Dogs for me.
All right, we've been saying it, we've been hinting at it, but we're gonna add in. It's not even a new segment. It's just calling out one game before we get to the best game of the week that we would maybe call the matchup of the week. We are going to start picking out a not so matchup of the week. And this week, our not so matchup of the week is the PP versus Sir Cox-a-Lot. Two penis references going head to head here. So it sounds like we do have Justin Herbert, who's not questionable. It sounds like if he's good to go, I don't know, because he'd play in Caleb Williams there. And we can see that rolling the dice for the PP on that, probably not gonna pan out. Jonathan Taylor looks like he is going to Indianapolis on the ground is going to be the focus, but I will say the Bears shut down Joe Mixon pretty well, gave up some long shots, but the Bears can do one of two things on defense. It seems like they can either shut down the run or shut down the pass, and they don't know how to take that balance yet. So we'll have to see what approach they take there. But Jonathan Taylor, think he's going to be more of a factor. This is playing out to be more of a factor this year than I personally would have expected. But on the other side, Sir Cox-a-Lot's got the man, the myth, the legend, former New York Giant Saquon Barkley, who has just been putting up some fantastic numbers, getting touchdowns. I think he got one taken away, but still, he's doing what he was expected to do. The all-star numbers, pre-franchise tag from the Giants, but look how that worked out. Across the rest, this really is, outside of that, Travis Kelce is just the only reason that's really worth calling out is, I guess, just because he's been a non-factor, just like every other tight end. And also, I don't know. I don't see anything else worth really going through. Do you guys in this one? My pick here is going to be Sir Cox-a-Lot, purely because of the Patrick Mahomes and the QB against Atlanta, potential for him to have another great game, and Saquon in the RB1 spot. But you guys see anything else worth chatting about in this one?
Yeah, looking at this thing throughout, I just don't understand why PP has Joshua Carty starting as their kicker. Blake, I'm surprised you didn't mention this with how much you love that kicker position. He's ranked 25th kicker right now. Obviously, there are better ones in our league, and I say the name Joshua Carty, and you're like, who the heck is that? I'm like, does he maybe know this guy? Looks like maybe someone Taylor would know. They kind of look similar in some ways. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say on either side. I just got a vendetta against Kirby right now since he beat me last week. He did offer me his kicker for CD Lamb, so Aaron, I'm glad that I saved him for that. I think that was a good trade offer, but it's something I just didn't feel right doing. So yeah, I think because of my vendetta against Cox, I do think this will be short or close, but I think Taylor and the PB will take this one.
Commissioner, I just want to say that the reason I haven't called out any defense or kickers this week is because being 0-2, again, 2 years in a row to start it out, I am maybe losing faith that defense and kickers win games, even though it has proven that it happens. One thing that I do think is maybe actually going back to call out is if Joe Mixon is out and he has Damian Pierce, probably floats that over Josh Jacobs in the running back spot there too, potentially if they're both healthy. What do you think about that, Zitch?
Yeah, I mean, I like Josh Taylor. I like Jonathan Taylor, and I like Josh Jacobs, to be honest, more than I
Sorry,
like the.
Javonte Williams hit his flex spot. I misspoke. I
Oh,
looked at the wrong guy.
oh,
Sorry.
then yes, I would arguably take Damian Pierce over Javonte Williams. I think Javonte Williams is a very non-productive back in Denver because it's a non-productive offense. Um, And I'm kind of with you guys on about, well, I'm with Ass on most of his analysis. Saquon is unstoppable. He's got, almost 50 carries through 2 games. Chris Godwin has proven to be the number one target there in Tampa Bay. He's wide receiver 1 on the year right now. And again, the tight end matchup, Kelsey being a washed up tight end now, I think that despite the Jacoby Myers flex play with Cooper Cup out, I think Cox will take this one in the battle of the phalluses.
Well, that was. This will be a good. I think this is going to be a nice new segment, the non-matchup of the week, because it just makes what is the matchup of the week that much more exciting. And this week we have the Victorville Vengeance versus my white Chubb Hurts.
Yeah, so kind of breaking these two teams down, looking at them position by position. Victorville's got Lamar Jackson versus Jalen Hurts. Actually, two very similar teams right now. And I think that you would look at it right away and say, okay, they both have rushing upside. They both have thrown the ball actually decently well. Jalen Hurts may not have A.J. Brown. Lamar Jackson Victorville has the stack there. But Victorville's against the Dallas defense, which hasn't looked great. Jalen Hurts is against the Saints defense, who I think has looked better than what they actually are. But I will go ahead and take Lamar on this side of things.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the running backs, well, right now, so Vic lost Pacheco, which was a huge asset, seemingly early off in the season. But I don't think I think that he could leave it as is because 1-to-1 it'd be him versus Amir White, which honestly has kind of been like running empty for Chris this year, at least pretty close to it. But he does have Carolina, which there's potential that they, if you're going to score big against anybody, it's going to be them. But and Aaron Jones though is Chris has Aaron Jones, and he's averaging 12 points, so he's consistent. He knows that he can hopefully rely on some points from him against J.K. Dobbins, who, J.K. Dobbins this year has been, he's not number one. He's got to be in the top
4.
5. Number who?
4.
He's 4. Yeah. So he's number 4. Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, J.K. Dobbins being number 4 against Pittsburgh, so he could have a really big game. And I would give this one I'm going on Victorville on this one. But that's only if he can get any kind of, he's got to get that spot filled. Sorry, I'm saying this. He'd probably put in Alexander Madison, so we'd have 1 and 2. That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting matchup. We have a handcuff versus a number 4, and then Aaron Jones consistency. That'd be fun. That'd be fun to look at. Good match for the week, but still going to go Victorville in this one. I think JK keeps hot, stays hot.
Yeah, and much like we have 2 Las Vegas running backs, we have 2 Minnesota wide receivers against each other, and both of which are slightly banged up. I know that Jefferson says he's good to go, and we're not really worried about Jay Jettis. I actually think that Chris was pretty much ready to ship off Jay Jettis last week for some new pieces. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But as it currently stands, Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison versus Justin Jefferson and Chris Olave. Olave has not been the number one target in that massive Saints offense. So despite that, I really think that Chris has the better of the two wide receiver cores here. I think Zay Flowers has had a really great year already, but we haven't seen anything from Jordan Addison yet. So I think Justin Jefferson is going to be the take targets away from Addison, and this one's got to go to Chris for the wide receiver room.
Yeah, I like that too. I think that JJ's going to be consistent. Chris Olave's got to come around. So yeah, great choice there. Looking at the tight ends, looking at George Kittle and Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram can't even get through pregame warmups right now, so he's struggling. Got hurt last week, so we'll see if he's even back this week. But I think regardless if it's Evan Ingram or if it's Jawan Johnson, I don't think that either one of them outmatch what George Kittle brings to the table. He's position ranked number 2 right now at the tight end position. I think maybe he's tied with Bowers. Kittle's continuing to be the consistent, reliable. I think his targets continue to go up this week with Deebo Samuel out. So I think Vic with Kittle takes the tight end room.
Look at the flex positions, and you never know where they're going to end up here. Could be some switching around. But as it stands right now, we got Wan'Dale Robinson taking on Smith and Jigba. And Jigba has had one bust week and one boom week. And assuming that he can, so they've got Miami this week, potentially a little bit more banged up Miami defense. But against, that'd be the Giants, who Wan'Dale Robinson is not. Does he have a touchdown on the year? But regardless, he's against the Cleveland D, which is a what I'll call a defensive handcuff, I guess, to what Chris has in his D. So I'd go for this set right now. It'd be Smith and Jigba, hands down.
Yep, I agree. And to your point, I don't ever know that it's a really good idea to play one of your skill players against a defense unless you're pretty confident in that defense. And I don't know that Cleveland is necessarily a bad pick here against the Giants, because they have been one of the worst offenses in the league. And I think that Kamish can correct me on this stat if I'm wrong, but they had 300 yards and scored 3 offensive touchdowns while the other team scored none. And they still lost last week, which is the first time in history that has happened. They failed on both 2-point conversions and a missed PAT and only scored 18 points, which is wild. So the Giants are kind of a failure in terms of their maybe play calling, their coaching,
organization.
I think that's fair too. So I think that the Cleveland D is a good play, and I think Young Hoi Koo is one of the most reliable kickers in the league. So I would like to see Vic switch up this defense. I don't think playing the Denver defense is going to be a good idea. But Justin Tucker is always Mr. Reliable. So if we see a change in the defense for Vic, I think this is a closer matchup. But ultimately, I got to give this one to Chris too for the defensive kicker.
You say Justin Tucker's Mr. Reliable. I don't know about that. He
last
week he showed back, but he has been in years past, and regardless, Baltimore has still shown that they are able to they will trust him to take those kicks, which gives them the opportunity, which is huge. When I'm looking across all of these, I'm going Victorville, and that really because I'm going all the way back to what Kamish started us out with Lamar Jackson. I think that he has potential to against Dallas, a Dallas that mentally it just doesn't, things aren't clicking, things aren't happening. So I'm going Vic.
Yeah, I know we just broke through every team as well, but I don't know of any other stack that stood out to me as much as the Lamar Jackson Zay Flowers stack does, just because what Lamar Jackson brings also on the ground, and then Zay Flowers being that number 1 target through the air. I think that has a potential to put up a lot of points. Before we broke these two teams down, I don't know if I'm going Victorville, but now that we are or have, I think I'm going Victorville.
And you can't script it any better. I disagree with the both of you. I think that Chris has this one. He has had a disappointing year thus far, but I really think that he's going to see a lot out of some of his skill positions. I think Aaron Jones will finally break out this week against Houston, and I think that Justin Jefferson is going to continue to run away at the wide receiver position. So I am going to take my White Chubb Hurts, as I talked about my blisters earlier. My White Chubb hurts a little bit. So with the matchup of the week, we've got Ass and Kamish taking Vic and myself taking the White Chubb Hurts. Who knows? 0-3 is significant. If you start out the season 0-3, you're kind of in trouble. We might talk about that a little bit more next week. But that's our matchup of the week. We'll see who is coming out with a win out of that group. But Daddies, that's your podcast.
Yeah, one big stuff this week. We are guaranteed. I don't know if it's happened, but we are guaranteed a 3-0, and we're guaranteed an 0-3. Love you guys. We have some openings. If you want to guest on this, if you want to get in on the action, please let us know. If you just like listening, let us know, because we got a blog, we got a pod, and I gotta get the fuck out of here. All right, I love you, Daddy, so much.
Love you, Daddies.
Have a wonderful week.
Love you.
I've got those 0-2